Afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for coming today. My name is Kim Dinger. I am the St John Clinical Internship Manager, and I'm here today just to give you guys a bit of a rundown about the St John Internship, answer any of your questions, of which I'm sure there will be plenty, and just have a general chat about what's happening for us at St John in this space. Before I start, has anyone, I just want to do a couple of things just to get a bit of a gauge for who's in the room. So if you're in first year, can you put your hand up? Second year? That's all of you? Wonderful. Any third years? Fantastic. How can you put your hand up if you belong to St John in some capacity, either as a volunteer, a casual or a paid staff member? Fantastic. And can you keep your hand up if you have got EMT authority to practice with St John? Awesome. And those of you who belong to St John and aren't EMTs, have you got first responder? Have you been credited with first responder? Just a couple of you. Awesome. Great. That just sort of gives me a bit of an idea about you. So those of you in third year, there's just a little collection up the top there, wasn't there? Okay, awesome. The internship program is a relatively new concept for us at St John. It has come about because we have made the decision that as an organisation we wanted to have a specified and consistently applied pathway for people to get to paramedic ATP and then to move to ICP ATP. And this is all stems from our processes becoming much more nationalised and away from the regional models where different things were happening in different parts of the country. So you can all hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. So as an organisation, we've made the decision that the qualifications both for at undergraduate level, the degree program, and the ICP specific papers are prerequisites for our internal authority to practice processes, but they are not a guaranteed ticket. So that's really important for you guys to understand, that you definitely need to have them should you want to get on a pathway, but having it does not automatically guarantee you a seat in a paramedic or in an ICP capacity. That's a change for us as an organisation. Those of you who've been a part of our organisation for a little while, you'll recognise that as a change. And that's come about for a number of reasons, but in particular because we've implemented a workforce development plan. And what that's done is that's specified across the country and in all the little parts of the country exactly where we want to have EMTs, where we want to have paramedics, and where we want to have ICPs. And because we've now got those locations identified, we now know how many paramedics and ICPs specifically we want and where we want them in the country. So that means that the number of people progressing to each of those positions is going to be more controlled and done in a more controlled fashion than previously done by St John. So, like I said before, we moved to this concept of an internship to have a consistently applied system for achieving paramedic and ICP ATP, and it's a national system. Everybody goes through the same process, heavily dictated by striving for clinical excellence, so really specific milestones within the program that people are required to achieve, constantly with the focus on patient safety and best outcomes for our patients, which is what we're all in the job for. The purpose of it is about having a supported pathway to becoming an autonomous practitioner at paramedic or ICP level. About the fact there's someone who's dedicated to go through that process with you, a single isolated person. So as an intern, you have quite a few responsibilities, most of which surround engagement in the program, engagement in personal development and learning, but also for being a role model for the program, showing other people how the program should be, being part of the development of it within our organisation, and also for seeking out your own learning opportunities as well as constantly preparing for clinical assessment, which is the last step before ATP issuance. So what does the program look like? Like most other internship models within the health sector, it has a period of one-on-one supervision, which we call precepting. So that's where your dedicated preceptor and you will work together in an ambulance one-on-one. Now, depending on operational requirement and where you're based, that may be for a consistent period or that may be for intermittent periods over an amount of time. But there is a requirement that all interns spend at least 12 shifts with a preceptor, noting that only really exceptional candidates will get through the requirements of the program in 12 shifts. And you've got a maximum of 40 shifts, so that's 10 blocks. It's a pretty good chunk of time if you require it in that one-on-one capacity. After that one-on-one period, the goal is that your preceptor will sign you off for independent practice. What that means is you'll be issued provisional ATP, which means you can practice to paramedic level without supervision. And the supervision for you at that point will be what we label remote. So your preceptor will audit your PRFs, will have clinical discussions with you, you'll still meet and talk with them, but they're not going to be in the ambulance with you. That phase we call clinical supervision. At the end of that phase, we move into clinical assessment, which most of you are familiar with the concepts there, having come through a degree program. So a skills station assessment, a simulation, and then a clinical interview. And that's done all in one day. You come to a venue, complete those 3 assessments and go away, and then you get results a few days later and get told if you've been successful.
So, when you're saying shifts, are you talking about 2 days, 2 nights being one shift, or
Individual 12-hour shifts.
So just 12 days?
Yeah. Yeah. So some more detailed stuff about precepting. It requires you to write case reports about jobs that you go to with your preceptor, and those involve you finding some information particularly around pathphys and pharmacology. The purpose of those is helping you to prepare for clinical assessment. In that assessment setting, you're going to have to articulate pharmacology, pathphys and A&P, and the writing of case reports is all around getting the right language and the right articulation of your thoughts and your clinical decision making, preparing for assessment. You also have to be involved in weekly feedback sessions with your preceptor, and you also participate in the preceptor reports as well, in particular around goal setting, so the things you're trying to achieve and what stuff might be getting in the way of you achieving your goals. And then before your preceptor signs you off for that independent practice, there's a checklist, which essentially is the paramedic delegated scope, and you need to prove to your preceptor that you know where the CPGs apply within the paramedic scope and the pathphys and the pharmacology that relates to each part of the paramedic scope of practice. So then in that clinical supervision phase, you're still going to write weekly case reports, but the feedback from your preceptor will be a little bit further spread out. That'll just come once a month. And like I said before, they'll be auditing all of your PRFs. So the purpose of that is looking for trends, things you might be missing, things you might be doing that maybe aren't necessary, and then clinical conversations with your preceptor to address any issues that are brought up through that auditing process. Your PRS will still go through normal organisational auditing as well. This is on top of that. You will also, in this period, be doing some more intense clinical assessment preparation. So maybe visiting the sim labs in your local area, doing particularly interview assessment preparation, practicing, spending time with other intern colleagues, and particularly with the clinical support staff in your local area. So while you are an intern with St John, you're remunerated at your base rate. So if you're trying to become a paramedic, you're remunerated as an EMT through that whole process. If you're trying to become an ICP, you're remunerated as a paramedic. Through the whole process, your reporting lines always stay with operations, with your managers in operations, and you have extra dotted lines to us in clinical. So to me as an internship manager, because you've got extra responsibilities to us what is on top of your regular ambulance officer duties. Being remunerated at paramedic level, in particular in our organisation, totally depends on the number of other paramedics in your area. There is a chance that you may go through an internship program and there isn't a paramedic position for you to fill at the end, and therefore you can't be paid as a paramedic. But all that information will be given to you at the time you're offered an internship, and if you choose not to take an internship because you don't want to be practicing at a level you're not being paid for, that's totally your call. You'll be given all that information at the beginning. So what do you need to be able to apply? You need to meet the educational criteria. You guys are all some of the way there, if not almost all of the way there. So at paramedic level, you need to have completed a degree in paramedicine. At ICP level, you need to have completed specific ICP-related postgraduate papers. You need to belong to St John. So you're not able to apply for an internship opportunity from outside of our organisation. You need to be part of the organisation to be eligible. Your operational managers need to endorse an application, and they need to support that it's the right pathway for you. And you also need to have had no significant complaints or reportable events in the 12 months prior. That's something in particular that we look at.
How long do you need to have worked with St John to be eligible?
So there's no particular time, there's no time criteria at all. You need to hold ATP. So if you're trying to become a paramedic, you have to already be an EMT, same at ICP level. But there's no time criteria.
What do you have to do to get to be an EMT?
You need to belong to our organisation first. Then through the degree pathway, when you complete 18 months of the degree, there is a process set up between Whitireia and St John to assist you in getting your EMT ATP. The things that you need to have done to be eligible is you need to have completed our foundation courses. So that includes the Operational Risk Management course, ORM, and the driving course, because you need to be able to function operationally at EMT level. So as long as you've done those things, then there's no assessment required once you've completed 18 months of the degree. But you do, however, need to have the endorsement of your operational manager. So that's just a form that they sign, and they may have some local criteria of things they want you to do before they'll sign it. But once we've got that signed form and proof that you've completed the 18 months, there's no further assessment, you'll be issued EMT.
If you've already got EMT but with WFA, is it easy to switch over or not?
Yes. So St John, I had to think about at EMT level. So St John automatically recognises Wellington Free ATP. So you just need proof of your Wellington Free authority to practice, and it'll be directly credited to us. That's just to be aware that if you want to try and hold ATP with both organisations, you'll need to meet the maintenance criteria within both organisations, and it is slightly different. So it is can be done, but you just need to make sure you know the rules before you try.
You've got full driver's license up there. Is there a period that you need to have held that for?
Yeah, there is. Good question. So you need to have held a full New Zealand driver's license for a year. However, there is a NZTA approved course that you can do to fast track that process. If you happen to be someone who is only just getting their license and is in quite a late stage in the degree, it's called the NZTA Advanced Driving Course. So that can speed that up for you. Any other questions before I carry on? Cool. This slide here is looking at the criteria for being employed by St John as a graduate. So in most places that will mean being employed as an EMT. So you need to have ATP or be eligible for it. So for you guys, once you graduate from this program, you're automatically eligible for EMT ATP as well. You need to have completed a degree process like you all will have. You need to be able to prove to us that you've done the clinical placement hours that sit within this degree program so that we can see how much experience and exposure you've had. You also need to be able to produce us with your mentor reports, particularly from the last semester of your degree, because those give us some really good information about how you're operating in an ambulance clinically and behaviourally. Driver's license, like we just talked about.
Do the mentor reports, have to be from St John, or can they be Federer?
Yeah, no, they don't need to be from St John. So if you've done all your clinical placement with Wellington Free, then that's totally fine. But if you're a volunteer with us or you work with us in some capacity, it's a really good idea when you're applying to be able to provide an assessment done on the road by someone who's from St John if you already belong to us. It all helps out. Technology is a huge part of what we do now, as I'm sure you all know. We now have electronic PRFs in St John. We use NDTs, phones, pages, lots of bits of equipment, so that's a really important skill to be able to bring. Excellent communication skills, preferably with some really clear examples of that. Lots of the questions in a behavioural based interview will be based around you giving examples. But case reports or assignments that you do here at uni, which specifically give examples of your communication with patients, other healthcare providers and the public, are all really great things to help boost your application. And then we have fitness testing as well.
Is there some sort of fitness test that you put your candidates through? So, press-ups, sit-ups, or?
Yeah, there definitely is. That is. I can't tell you exactly what's involved in that assessment. These are slides from our wonderful HR team. They will be able to talk you through exactly the requirements, but you need to be able to demonstrate using a carry chair with a patient on it up and down a set of stairs. You need to be able to demonstrate sit-ups and push-ups. I don't know the numbers, sorry, I can't tell you that.
I really know, it's really meat and mild.
Yeah, it is.
It's take the physical and anybody can get through it.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Don't stress about it.
You have to be able to walk around the block with a pack on. It's It's all stuff that you'll be fine. Yeah. The selection process involves a behavioural interview, which is if you get shortlisted for an application, a behavioural interview where we want to hear as many examples, preferably from work you've done in ambulances, but if not, then simulated work that you've done. And then a driving assessment, a map reading assessment, so should all our technology fail, we want to make sure you can still get from A to B. Some literacy and numeracy testing, as well as some psychometric testing, and then all the normal pre-employment checks. We want to make sure that you can actually work in New Zealand, check your references, and check all your qualifications and bits and pieces. That is all the stuff I want to tell you guys about. So I now want to answer any questions you have about the program, the process, internship, ATP, whatever you've got.
So someone like me who about to finish the degree and not done any work with St John before in the past, how long on average will it take for me to get paramedic ATP?
Unfortunately, that's not a black and white answer. I can't give you an exact time frame. So important for you guys to know that recruiting on a whole across the country is pretty much at a history low. We are in a position as an organisation that we've never been in before, that we're really flush with staff, and we're especially flushed with qualified staff because we now have AUT and Whitireia both with programs that are producing degree qualified graduates. So what that means is we're not taking on huge numbers of staff. What that also means is that because we already have got large volumes of paramedics and ICPs within the program, the internship opportunities are also low. So depending on where you get employed, metro places like Auckland and Christchurch, the wait for internship could be 12 to 24 months. In urban and rural places, particularly places that are hiring with the intention of running internship, and that's how their positions will be advertised, you're probably likely to get an opportunity sooner than that. But an actual time frame is kind of hard to predict at the moment.
Is there any option where it doesn't matter where you go? Can you just apply for, like...
Just apply for anywhere?
Apply for anywhere, yeah. So like Scotland and that kind of would, like...
Yeah.
Places.
I can't answer that question knowing I'm 100% telling you the truth. So I'm going to abstain and tell you that the talent sourcing guys really are the experts in that area. In Auckland, you apply to Auckland District and then can be sent anywhere within the district. But most other places in the country, jobs are advertised as they come up. And that's because we have so many qualified staff at the moment and we're just not recruiting in huge volumes. So the recruitment website, you can set up a profile that alerts you to a bunch of things that you put into it. So you can put anything that's related to internship or anything related to paramedic positions, and every time an opportunity is advertised, you'll get an alert and you can see whether or not you meet the criteria.
Okay, so I'm a distance learner.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep.
Employed full-time.
Employed full-time?
Yep.
Fantastic.
And we've got a large volume of people coming through, like coming up towards 2 preceptors.
Yeah.
Now, you've got their time frame that you need to do so what's in place for us to continue practicing and maintaining our skills once we finish as a student while we're waiting for this internship? Because if we're waiting 12, 18 months or longer with the inability to practice and maintain those skills, what's going to happen?
Before I answer that question, should we turn the lights back on? Because then I can see you all now that we're finished with this. And I can see your faces. That's better. So that's 100% on our radar and a real priority for us. So what we've decided we're going to do to manage internship opportunities is have biannual applications. So twice a year, and they align with the graduation of semesters. Twice a year you'll be able to apply for an internship opportunity if one's advertised in your local area, and it will be in most places. They'll be advertised by district, and what will happen is you'll go into a waiting list because what you're doing is you're saying to the organisation, alright, this is what I want to do, I want to progress. And you'll go through the recruitment process that's involved with the intern selection. So if there are any issues, your operational managers will be able to give you feedback around that. But if you're successful, you'll end up on the waiting list. When you're on the waiting list, you'll still be able to have access to the St John student program. So you'll still be able to practice under supervision, because we definitely don't want you to lose those skills while you're waiting for the chance to progress to paramedic. So you'll still be able to practice under supervision just like you do right now. So the St John student program design is about to change, and it will make a lot more sense once it's changed. And as soon as that documentation is ready, that'll go out to all staff, and you'll be able to read about it and see how that's going to work for you. Yeah.
Registration. When/if it comes into play.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that it's going to be quite recent, or quite soon. How is that going to affect the intern program?
Sure. So when registration comes, because I can guarantee you it's coming. I can't tell when, but I can tell you it's going to come. We will reevaluate what that's going to look like for us as an organisation. So we're still going to need to have a process so us as an organisation will still issue you the right to practice in your registered scope. So the words ATP and that stuff might change around that situation, but as an organisation we will still have a process where we control how many people sit at each level. So it's likely that the design of the internship won't change. It will be entry criteria and terminology that changes. So you can pretty much guarantee that even once registration comes, you'll go through some sort of system that is based on the model I just showed you to be able to practice as a paramedic or an ICP for St John.
So you're saying holding people at different practice levels, is that saying that St John's will dictate my ability to register as a paramedic even at working at a lower level?
So we haven't, the registration team haven't got to that kind of fine detail, but no, we can't control what you register as. You will still be able to register as a paramedic if you meet the registering body's criteria, but as an organisation we will control who sits in what category for us. Yeah.
It's likely that the responsible authority will have a provision for provisional registration for interns.
Which would be
And
great.
And also like that.
Yeah. There's still lots of detail to work out in that space.
Hey, sorry, Megan.
That's all right.
You mentioned that you've got, like, St John have outlined, like, where they want certain people.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea on, like, what areas they're kind of after paramedics for?
So I hard to fills at the moment. There are paramedic positions currently in central Otago, so in the south, and I think the only ones are mid-central, like Wanganui, that kind of area. Those are our current hard to fill rosters.
And would they be okay doing, so I want to work rural, I'm a rural girl anyway, but I was told that, like, if I wanted to do an internship to kind of prove myself as ILS, I'd have to go to, like, Auckland for, say, 2 years, make my name and then go rural. Is that kind of the case or not really?
It's definitely not a requirement, so you won't have to come to Auckland to do an internship. We'll definitely be running internship all across the country. Once you when you move into our rural locations, attrition rates are really low. So that means people get there, they get the jobs they want, and they stay put. What that means for you guys as new graduates is they're not making space for you guys to have jobs. So where you might become stuck is that there may not be internship opportunities in those smaller locations purely because they just don't need any more paramedics. So in those situations you might have to go somewhere bigger to get an internship opportunity, but it's definitely not a requirement. There are certain places, really, really remote, small stations that don't have paramedics assigned to them. Those kind of places will not be running internship. So really, really remote stations, that just won't be an option. But anywhere that, not anywhere, most places which have paramedic rosters have the ability to run an internship, provided the district operations staff have got the support required to look after an intern in that place. And that is that's a big ticket to it all working, is because we don't want to put you somewhere and then just leave you on your own. We've got to make sure the support's there to look after you.
And just to follow on from that, sorry, because is workload kind of, if you do your internship and they're like, oh, well, you haven't, you're just in a rural area, no one's in a car accident every time you're on shift, which can kind of happen, right?
Yeah.
Does that kind of count? Like, do you have to have, because I know with your EFT, you have to have a certain range of different jobs. Is that kind of the same for your ILS assessment as well? Yeah, so within
that checklist that we talked about for moving to provisional ATP, there's certain elements in there that your preceptor needs to see you do. Ideally, we'd want them to see you do that in real life with real patients, but if we're in a situation where you just haven't had access to any of that particular work, we might simulate that to complete the checklist to allow you to move on. Places that have really, really low workload and low exposure to high acuity jobs will be places that we don't run paramedic internship anyway. Yeah.
So you could do them out of region as well, like the assessments, or like if they say, oh, you've been down to Dunedin for like the last 5 months, let's go to Christchurch for the exam.
Yeah, definitely. And so At this stage, the paramedic assessments, the clinical assessment days, are run in Auckland, Palmerston North and Christchurch, so they're only run in those 3 centres, so you'll travel to attend one of those anyway. But if we were getting towards the end of your precepting and collectively we made a decision that you just hadn't had enough exposure, we might look at sending you somewhere for a couple of blocks to get some additional stuff. But that's all things that the internship would manage, and we'd look at on a one-on-one basis.
Working for St John, are you able to transfer from one place to another, or do you need to apply for like a new job? Or
Again, that's a question for the talent sourcing gurus. I'm sorry, I can't quite answer that, but what I can tell you is that if you were trying to move from Auckland to Christchurch, you would need to be moving to a job. So you would have need to have applied for a job and been successful to be able to transfer. It's very easy for the organisation to transfer you between places, but you need to have secured a role at the end destination before you were making that move.
With regard to, so obviously the year 3s that are coming out this year will be applying to MTOs and stuff. What is the criteria to apply for the MTO? Because I know that some positions in the client has been told, A, that their volunteers free ATP doesn't count, the fact that they're EMT, and secondly, that they couldn't get the role because they weren't already with St John.
Specific instances of Wellington free ATP not being recognised, I'd love to hear about. So if you can get those people to get in touch with me, that'd be great, because we'd love to sort that issue out. That should never be an issue. You are in Auckland. If you don't hold, you are more likely to be shortlisted in Auckland if you currently hold St John EMT ATP, and that is just a reality. Doesn't mean you have to, but you are more likely to be shortlisted. What was the second half of that question?
So if, for instance, so like Sam was talking before, so he's coming out, he's got no ATP with
Right.
either organisation.
Yeah.
He's applying for an EMT role
Yeah.
as a degree qualified
Yeah.
student.
Yeah.
What's-
Yeah, so we highly recommend that you go through the process of getting your EMT ATP before you graduate. We've got really good pathways for you to do that within St John, so if you're already a member of St John, it is relatively easy, and we really, really encourage you to do that because it will make you more likely to be shortlisted for applications. It's not a necessity though, and as long as you have got the educational criteria for an ATP, so if you finished a degree then you can have an EMT ATP, then you shouldn't not be considered for a role, but the talent sourcing girls are much better equipped to answer those particular kind of questions.
So in regards to that, you're going to look at the third years coming through now, effectively they need to start volunteering at St John.
If you want to be employed by St John, it's going to help you. Yeah, it's not a requirement, but if you've got 60 people applying for 4 positions, and that is our reality right now, then the ones who are volunteering for us and have already got an ATP are going to end up higher on the list.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but just querying whether that's a necessity or not.
Yeah. The other kind of roles that you should be looking to apply for is paramedic roles, especially out of metro. So in urban, paramedic roles will be advertised for paramedics or for EMTs who have completed their degree. So you should be checking the fine detail of jobs that are advertised to see if you fit the criteria. Don't just go off the title of the job. You should be looking into the criteria and seeing if you meet it.
What's the current rate for full-time EMT employment?
Wages?
Now 50, so if I'm
Yeah.
your grandfather at the old rate.
48, I think, between 48 and 50, is that right?
It's pretty much sitting at 50 now.
Yeah. Yeah. There is, particularly if you're employed in Auckland, there's a new recruit wage, and you're paid a new recruit wage for the period of the 6 or 8 weeks of your orientation, which is less than that. And then once you've graduated from your orientation, you then go to EMT wages. It's quite a significant jump to the paramedic wages, so it's about 15k, 12 to 15k.
67 paramedics.
Yep.
Sorry, Megan.
That's all right.
So, I've attempted to join St John a couple of times, and every time I email someone, it never gets back to me, or I get told to just stop emailing because they're not hiring. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
I can imagine as well. And so I was just wondering, what's the best way, like, who's
Yeah.
the best person to talk to? How do you join? Because, yeah.
Yeah. So all of the volunteer recruiting is managed by talent sourcing. So it's not managed on a local level from the actual hiring perspective. It's done by talent sourcing. So the online recruitment website really is your best bet. I know you have to fill in lots of pieces of information. It can be quite tedious, but getting your name in the system via the recruitment website really is the best way to go. Once you get through a recruitment process and are approved to be a volunteer, that's then managed on a local level. So that's where your local Dunedin guys would then pick it up and organise orientation and stuff. But the actual recruitment is done at head office. So if you don't have any luck on the, I will leave my email address and bits and pieces. If you don't have any luck on the recruitment website, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with one of the talent sourcing girls.
I found the same as well. I'm already part of St John and I'm trying to get my EMT, but I'm just getting nothing. I've sent all the forms away.
Sure.
And I don't get anything.
Come and have a chat with me before I leave.
Are you looking at increasing the volume of preceptors? Because it's a very small volume at the moment compared to the number of, there's 26 people in this room.
Yeah.
And that's not including the already distant learning people that are already employed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all coming up, sorry, it's just me, all coming up like in a big pyramid.
Yeah.
Are you looking at increasing that volume to?
So what I can tell you is there are 57 trained preceptors around the country, and there's 47 people waiting to be trained, and it's likely that in the next 6 months we'll probably offer 10 internships. So from an internship perspective to preceptor, our ratio is fine. From a graduate to preceptor ratio, it's never going to be fine because we're never going to be in a position to employ a whole graduating class in one go. So at the moment, we've got enough preceptors to manage the number of internships that we're going to be able to offer. But we're always recruiting, so if you know someone who's keen, tell them to go online and apply.
How are those going to be managed if you've already got a full-time position on a certain colour, like blue watch, say for instance, and the preceptor's on a red watch?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody from that red watch shift is going to have to stand down from their position if they don't want to. How is that going to be managed internally?
Yeah, so the logistics around getting an intern and precept together are totally managed by operations. Because they're the ones who look after the staff and move the staff around. So lots of that's done by negotiation. In some locations we're using training vehicles where the preceptor and the intern are both moved into a different vehicle away from their watches. If someone needs to change watch, it will be the intern that changes, not the preceptor. And that's all part of signing up to be an intern. You sign up to say that there may be some changes to your roster. That's just part of the parcel, unfortunately. But that's 100% managed by ops, just because from my office in Auckland, I have no control or good vision of what happens out
Because
there.
I asked ops that, and they actually said to put the question back to you. And that was the territory manager.
Awesome. Before you leave, can you let me know where you belong? Thanks.
The second part of that question is people who, like you've got 4 people on a watch.
Mm-hmm.
So with your internship, you're going to be one-on-one or you're going to be third up?
No, one-on-one. So not triple
the
crewed.
person who's already on that shift is going to have to.
Yeah, but again, all negotiated by ops. So there's some, we have found so far, we've found that, and our numbers are small, we've got 26 paramedics through the program and 6 ICPs, but we have in all of those instances not come across a situation where other staff have said, no, I'm not going to help facilitate an internship. Generally speaking, the other staff on the watch are really excited about the fact they're gonna see an internship happen, and it's going to happen in their local area, and they're actually really willing to get involved and negotiate to change rosters or watches or trucks or whatever it is to help it happen. So far.
So you say there's taking on 10 people every 6 months into the program, and there's 47 people waiting. Are we going to be put behind those 47 on the waiting list?
So 10 people every 6 months is, sorry, that's not what I meant at all. But in the next 6 months, it is unlikely that there will be any more than that. And that is very heavily based on the fact Christchurch and Auckland are very overstaffed at the moment. The actual numbers per annum and per 6 months, we can't tell you because they're 100% based on attrition, where people move, and what the operational requirement for paramedics and ICPs are. The number of people who are currently waiting for an internship, unfortunately, is a lot higher than 47. And you don't go to the bottom of the list. The selection process that I talked you through before for the internship position is about finding the best possible candidate. So you'll go through a recruitment process, and as candidates, you'll literally get ranked, and the best possible person will be offered the position. So graduating most recently definitely does not put you at the bottom of the list, but it also doesn't put you at the top. So you need to understand that you literally are just competing with everybody else.
What's your requirements to be a preceptor? So, because it's, another 5 years time. But like, is that like you've got to be ILS for like the last so many years, or?
Yeah, so again, there's no particular time requirements at paramedic level about being a preceptor. Your operational managers would encourage you to have been a paramedic for about a year before you start putting yourself in a position where you're teaching other people. They are at ICP level, so you need to have been an ICP for at least 12 months before you're allowed to precept other ICPs. You can precept other paramedics though from an ICP as a new ICP, and the other criteria are very similar to the internship criteria. So you need to have had no significant complaints or adverse incidents. You need to have the endorsement of your manager, and they go through a recruitment process as well. I do phone interviews, and then they come in and they do training. There's no requirement to hold a degree though.
You were talking about the possibility of people doing internships and ending up effectively still paid in the ENT, but
Yep.
with paramedic education.
Yep.
What is the benefit for St John at effectively holding people at ENT then? You've got 200,000 staff who could be qualified, working as paramedics,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
being paid in the ENT rate. Why aren't you
Yeah.
utilise that if people are willing?
There's no benefit to St John whatsoever. The unions have got concerns about us having you practice at paramedic and only remunerating you at ENT level. So those of you who are part of a union, if you don't agree with that standpoint, you really should make that known to your union representatives. Because that is currently our issue.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I can't understand why you would
Yep.
want to have people aligned to people.
Yep. In saying that though, we are not going to create paramedics in locations that do not support paramedic work. So you're always going to have to be willing to work in a place that supports paramedic work if you want to be a paramedic.
Is it still very small stations that you don't have to paramedics have those?
Yeah.
On the subject of hold stations,
Yes.
I've been reading the paper that St John's committed recently to double crewing all the ambulances in New Zealand. Anything?
I am only one person. I feel like I need a panel. No, so look, the organisational decision making around double crewing hasn't been announced yet, and we are all waiting to hear what the results of those papers are and what funding we're going to get access from the ministry, what funding we're going to get access to, and what that's going to look like in the next 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years for St John. Yeah, I can't tell you. I'm hoping that we get to a point where every ambulance will be double crewed and every ambulance will have one paramedic in it, and that will all help your case for becoming paramedics. But we're just not. We just can't say now. We don't know.
Just to add on from that, with the company creating EMA positions,
Yeah.
which is a completely different kettle of fish to an EMT position.
Yes, it is.
How does that affect those that are trying to progress through the pathway? Because most of the jobs I've seen advertised say must be on the paramedic pathway, and the EMAs are completely out of whack with that sort of situation.
Yeah, look, I can't really comment on the EMA situation. EMAs are only being put into certain locations around the country. We're not going to have them in metro areas, and they are being the places they're being put are being selected by design based on workload, operational requirement and other bits and pieces. So I can't guarantee you that a potential paramedic position may not be taken by an EMT. I can't make that, an EMA, I can't make that guarantee. But as an organisation, we have a very clear goal about how big we want our paramedic workforce to be, and it's going to be the biggest chunk of our workforce, and we're committed to creating that workforce and looking after it, hence the introduction of an internship. This in-between phase where we're getting it all off the ground is always going to be a little bit messy, unfortunately.
Forgive my ignorance, what is an EMA?
An EMA is a emergency medical assistant. So they are likely to be a first responder, and they make up a double crew and emergency response vehicle. So they, it means that they can drive while a EMT or a paramedic or an ICP is caring for the patient. So they don't hold ATP, generally speaking, and they are there to be an assistant.
Follow up that, registration has, they won't be able to work. There'd be a big
there's
loophole
still-
in your employment.
Yeah, there's still lots of fine details about registration that we just don't know yet, and where the line is going to sit of who's registered and who's not, we don't have confirmation of. So I'm going to choose to no comment on that one.
What's the difference between an EMA and a first responder? You just said that they're basically first responder.
So we currently don't have paid positions for first responders in the organisation. We have paid positions for EMAs.
Just on the levels of registration, and this first rollout is only going to be targeting about Ministry of Health and New Zealand, and not even looking at
Cool. Any other questions? I'm almost too scared to ask. Those of you who are currently working for St John, I've got the brand new, just released last week, program document about the internship. So if you currently work for us, feel free to grab one of these on your way out. It's available on the hub for those of you who've got access. And if any of you want any information, particularly around getting ATP at EMT level, feel free to come and have a chat to me before I leave. If I can find a whiteboard marker, I will put our email address on the whiteboard. But we are ATP at stjohn.org.nz, so it's nice and easy to remember. That gets